All right. It's listening time now.
And she's the teacher.
That's right. Yeah, you should know. No. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come by and listen to Heather mostly talk. She has been with the gallery for almost 20 years now. And
at least 20 years.
I know. It's pretty incredible. And she's been innovating and really pushing the boundaries of her art further and further. And we're now here to talk about her current show, Everyday Saints and Ordinary Things Only Bigger, which is quite a tongue twister, but it really is a great description of this exhibition. You are exploring sculpture and painting. Mostly the paintings are all portraits. So that leads me directly into my first question to you. So where did that inspiration come from for the kind of twofold subject matter of your current show with the portraits and the sculptural pieces?
For the first time for a body of work, the title of the show came first.
Okay.
Where it just came to me like that. It was everyday. The only thing that was different is I wasn't sure if it was going to be Ordinary Saints and Everyday Things or Everyday Things and Ordinary Things. But the title came to me, and it just fell into place. Like, I knew exactly what the paintings were going to be, or not specifically what they were going to be, but I knew that they were going to be saints that kind of watched over us in these tumultuous times. And then I knew the sculpture was going to be premised on the matches because I'd done those previously. So I had already done things bigger. But I knew they were going to be everyday things, and I knew they were all made of wood.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of an automatic, like, oh, okay. So I had a directive.
So where does that interest in like these everyday kind of subject matters come from? Like, if you say that the show was already determined and you basically then just came up with pieces afterwards, like where does that inspiration or like that fascination with the everyday life come from? Is that just something that you observe in your own life, or?
No, I think everyday life is a little tough right now.
Yeah.
So it came to me a little bit like a call and answer, where the sculpture felt like it was some of the issues we were dealing with. And then the saints, the paintings, were the things that watched over us and helped us through some of those things. So even though they're really different in terms of being two-dimensional and portraits, and then three-dimensional and no figures, they felt like they just went lock and key to me. Like I just kind of knew exactly what I wanted. And as far as the everyday things, I think as artists, art is how we process the everyday. I mean, it's how we can get through the everyday. So they were helping me as much as me creating them. I was creating them to help me get through the everyday.
Right.
Because they're everyday issues we deal with. Rough mornings and forgotten things and bad decisions and just the things that we all have to deal with.
Very cool. Okay. So because that all your portraits are saints, and I think that's a very interesting choice of using saints, even though most of them do not have like a halo or anything that makes them saintly. I'm still like interested in how you personally stand to saintliness in your personal life. Do you think saints take an important part in your personal life besides the figures you came up with for this show, or is that something you really only focused on for this show?
Well, I don't think of them as saints in a religious sense or in a pious sense.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of just took the word and used it as my own, more as watchers, as figures that watch over us, protectors. So more saints in that term. But yeah, I think in my own life, and I don't know about, I think, I think as artists, a lot of the times we create these things and we relate to them, especially when it's a figurative thing
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually
Right.
somebody that's looking back at you. Um, and so I was kind of creating them as protectors for myself
Right.
as well. So in terms of saints, not so much religious, but more
More,
watchers,
yeah, watchers
someone to
under,
watch over.
still in a spiritual sense, then still,
Yeah,
like for your personal kind of life. So
yeah,
that's also what a saint is,
yeah,
like a watcher over somebody. So
yeah.
it's a really fitting description, I
Well,
think.
thank
So
you.
yeah, yeah. Um, so to the sculptures, how do you choose which sculpture or which everyday thing gets to be almost elevated in that
Mm.
by blowing it up in that kind of super um, supersized form and deserving that almost special treatment of being turned into a sculpture by you.
Hmm. Part of it is part of it is I have a lot of wood. I am a collector of wood. I am the person that you see pulling up next to your brush pile and taking wood off of it, shoving it in the back of my car. So I have a lot of wood to choose from, and I kind of went shopping. I looked through what I had to see what spoke to me, like the cigarette butt. It was a piece of wood I had had for a while, and well, I looked at it this time and went, "Oh, I know exactly what you are. I know exactly why I've kept you around."
Yes.
But other things is I wanted the shapes to be really easy to recognize and something that resonated with all of us, that we knew immediately what it was,
Right.
something that everybody kind of has ownership of, uh, and things that were just familiar, things that
Mm-hmm.
were not, that were automatically recognizable,
Yeah, because you have the banana here, which made
Yes.
big headlines earlier this year,
Yeah.
with being sold at a art auction, I believe, to a tech billionaire, and
That one came a little later after,
yeah,
after the,
after that. It's a great story, and I think a great response by you to feature that in that kind of in your kind of humorous way. Like they all have humorous sides. Your pieces, there's a very beautiful formal way of how you treat the wood, how you um, paint your paintings, and like that humorous side really gives it that another edge too. So I think
Good.
that's really really great.
That's a big goal of mine. I want people to laugh. I want,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that's a completely appropriate response.
Yeah.
Is to get a good laugh.
That's great. Yeah. Um, so, do you think by blowing up these pieces, like these everyday items, you your audience, us, get a different emotional response to it, to those pieces? Like they're not everyday items anymore that are laying on our kitchen counter, but they're things that we see on our walls, on our, in this beautiful gallery space here. And, um, you know, do you think or how do you think our reaction changes to those items when we see them on the wall, big, as opposed to on our kitchen counter?
Well, I do think it elevates. I mean, just bringing it into a gallery, it's already elevated. You have this beautiful lighting, and it changes your perspective. So I think, yeah, changing the size of anything automatically changes the perspective, and I think also giving things a little tweak, making them a little off uh, and not perfect, will change the way you look at something as well. Um,
Um, do I'm going kind of back and forth between the portraits and the sculptural pieces, but with your saints that we spoke about earlier, are there any inspirations from your personal life? Like, are there any real life figures that you are relating to, even though they might not be exactly who you're painting there? But is there somebody, or can you name a few people that you're depicting there, or are they all just made up out of your mind?
I think they're everybody in terms of questionable decision making and forgotten things and rough mornings, and the idea was to make it all relatable to everybody. And personally, my own questionable decision making, and but that's what I wanted to do, was just make it sort of instantly relatable, that these were things everybody needed a little protection from or a little help with. Very human problems. The only one that is really personal is the two there. It's Esme and Harriet, and my sister's name is Erin, and so that one was for her, kind of a little wink and a nod, like because I knew she'd walk in and cry.
Well, it's the power you have, you know, that you got to make use of that. So that's really, really sweet, and I think that's very adorable to get that, sister pair. Even though it's just a nod, it's not exactly, everybody sees what they will and what they want in art, and that's the kind of the beauty of it too. We can all relate to it differently, but that's a really sweet little detail.
And she did cry.
Okay. So you mentioned that the title for the show came before the actual pieces were developed. But is that the case for each individual piece, or do the titles often come before or after each individual piece? Because they often give such a different dimension to what we're looking at. The piece itself is already like beautifully done and already tells a story, but then through the title, you give that almost another perspective to it, or kind of make it whole in a way. So I'm just wondering, how does your process of giving the titles play into your creation process? I know for a whole show that may be different than for each individual piece.
Yeah, I love titles. I love titling pieces. To me, it kind of ties it all up at the end.
And that's not very common for artists either. A lot of artists hate titling their pieces, so it's a really interesting kind of detail.
I don't know how to do it. Like I until it has its title, because it ties it up for me. Because a lot of the times you make work and not so much with this show, but a lot of times you make work and you don't know what you're making. You're making this thing that you're compelled to make, and you don't always know why you're doing it. You don't always know the end. But there's something about giving it a title where it brings it full circle for yourself, and then you sort of understand. Oh, that's why I did that. Now I understand. But no, I love the wordplay, and the sculptures were so much fun to title. And I did that. That was really half of the fun, was coming up with the names and the titles and what exactly the story for each of the paintings was, and then maybe a little sly, maybe not so sly sometimes, direction as to what the piece is about, because I don't necessarily want to tell people what to think. It's their job as a viewer to have their thoughts about a piece. But this particular group of work was a little more directional with its titling.
So the titles came before the actual pieces, and then they
kind of all culminated together.
I'm sure it happens within the process. It's not just like, okay, I have a title and now I have to create a piece around it, but sometimes it's maybe that way.
It's a little hand in hand. This one was a little hand in hand, where I had ideas of some of the issues I wanted to share in terms of what we all go through, and then play around with those images, and then play around with what those words were. So they kind of went hand in hand.
Very beautiful. Yeah. I do have another kind of formal remark or formal question, because I had so many people comment on how beautifully smooth your surfaces are on your paintings and on your sculptures that I had so many questions about how long does it take you to, from the raw form to bring it all together and make it into such a beautiful finished product. It's I'm actually adding this now to my questions here because it's I had that remark very often, and that finishing process is I'm sure vital to your work, but if you want to talk
well,
about
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, obviously very different sculpture to paintings, but the paintings are all on wood, so I already have a real nice smooth surface I'm working on. So there's not so much a trick with that, but I don't do a lot of textural paint, so it's pretty easy to get a nice smooth surface. And then the sculpture, it's sanding, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of sanding. I spent months and months sanding. Yeah.
It becomes meditative, right? Not so much.
Yeah, well, the first few months were. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we say when something takes a very long time and it becomes meditative, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The first 6 months were meditative.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure Heather is open to any more questions from our audience here. If anybody has any questions, yeah.
The needle and the thread. I really would like to hear your thoughts on that because hand sewing isn't, as popular or necessary as it has been in the past, and I think it's like things thread together, like your work. One item to another kind of threads together. And so, what's your backstory or back thinking about what brought the big needle and
thread? Well, again, I was looking for familiar but kind of old shapes, and the needle, just came to me, and I liked the idea of playing around with adding a fabric element to it. I wasn't sure how that was going to work out for a while, so I had the needle. I'd carved the needle first, and I'm not sure how else to answer that, but just that the idea of the name of it is Sewing Maybes, and so the whole idea of joining together or repairing, it's sort of about repairing possibilities.
I like that you also have a really bold color for your thread. You may have just, did that intuitively, but I think it makes a big connection with what you're doing. It's a bold thought.
Yeah, well, thank you.
It was meant a thread is actually very slender and connects things, but I think that was, because I see red running.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I've used thread in multiple pieces, whether it's painted thread or one of the paintings up there has the guy with the cloud, and I almost always use red if it's a thread or anything like that represented in a painting or in sculpture. I always go for that really bright red. It just kind of become a thing,
Everybody seems to have one, like you go to, it's like, okay, now it looks like me.
Yeah.
It feels like me.
I also think that red thread is like the red string pulling, throughout the paintings or throughout the work is a very kind of interesting metaphorical detail, so it's, I think, a very smart choice. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, the gentleman back here.
Hi.
What was your thought process behind
We have to say
I
the.
mean, even though it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, like, how are you feeling in the moment when you just decide?
Well, again, that one, the title kind of.
It's the patron saint of unwashed hair and dirty words.
Yeah.
So.
I was looking for a way to sneak some dirty words into a few of the works. To be honest with you, I needed to vent. I wanted to vent a little. Yeah. So I don't know. Those two just went together. It felt like a good partnership. Thank you. And there's a lot of dirty words in there. So. Yeah. No, actually, if you look really close, there's one that's a different one. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like you to talk about the piece behind you, if you envision that as a group in that arrangement, with the shadows and the beauty of the fragility of the wishbone. Just tell me about that.
I had been doing sketches for a long time of wishbones, and I knew I was going to make at least one big one, if not. And so it's funny because I went back through sketchbooks from several years ago, and it was like I had the water drops in there, and next to the wishbones, and I was like, oh yeah, they were just waiting. They were just waiting for the time. But it's the form. I love the form, and they kind of remind me a little of like a trophy wall, except for obviously not trophies. But mostly it was just the form, and that everybody recognizes that. You know, that's a part of most of our childhoods. Well, thank William and Ruth for that, because we had played with a lot of ideas, and
That's right.
this is the one they came up with, and I think it works really nice.
And only in the second try.
Yeah.
It's only the second try, because before we had them the other way around, and that just didn't quite.
Oh yeah, there was a whole debate. It's a whole debate of if your wishbones go down or they go up, and it became a big personality test.
Yeah.
So were these trophies and achievements that you wished for, or what was, because you called them kind of trophy-like?
Yeah, well, I guess I actually collected wishbones along with sticks and whatnot, but I had kind of forgotten about them, but I went looking for them to kind of have something to identify with when I was carving these, and I pulled out this box. There were probably 150 wishbones. I did not eat all those birds, but people had been giving them to me because they knew I was collecting them. So I guess those were my trophies in some way. Yeah.
Do you still have your question?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just kind of technique-wise, and it sort of goes back to what he was talking about. On your paintings, how do you get that really soft, sort of ethereal look to them?
That I had a lot of people ask me that. A lot of other artists ask me that. I don't like glossy varnish, and I don't like matte, so I just have come up with a recipe of using matte and satin, so that it's
Like a gesso or something?
no, it's a varnish. They're varnishes. They're just acrylic varnishes, but then I do a mix, so it's like a 70-30 mix of satin to matte.
Which you put on after you do the painting?
Yeah, the painting's completely done and dried, and then I'll do like an extra coat. So there's usually like 3 to 4 layers. So I think it gives it that little bit of almost not encaustic, but it does give it that little bit of depth.
We have a couple pieces of yours. They have like sort of a blending around on the edges and things like that. Does that come during that process too, or is it?
No, that's the paint, and then that's all the paint. So that's before the varnish, but
and then on top of it is what gives it that ethereal.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a really great choice. The kind of vignette that you put your pieces in, and then that finish is, as I said, like so beautiful. You know, like almost like wax-like. You know, it's really, really nicely done. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I have a
less artisty question for you.
Shoot.
I don't remember seeing you work before with the words kind of worked into the theme of the painting. So like the unwashed hair and dirty words, and here a bunch of dirty words, and random thoughts with a bunch of random thoughts and things. And there's the other one with the blah blah blah, which I think is really kind of fun. I don't remember.
Good.
Yeah, the clever names. I don't remember seeing that before. Is that something that's new? Or
I think I've used it, I've interspersed it over the years, here and there, just when it was appropriate. But this one seemed.
I think it's really clever.
Thank you.
Fun.
Thank you. Good. Fun is that's.
So we
I want you to have, yeah.
We got a question over here.
I was going to ask about the brush for the brush. Do you have a specific brush that you like to use?
The brushes I use are really cheap. You'd be so disappointed. I don't remember the brand name. They're just maybe a 4-inch wide, cheap. I will text you the name when I get home, but they're a nice flat. They have a nice, but I can replace them pretty quick if I do a bad job washing them. Yeah. Okay.
So, do we have any more questions? No? Okay.
Heather, you seem to like faces. You love faces and you love it in your work. My townhouse is full of just faces.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering the other day, maybe I don't have any friends. I'll just start to faces. What is the fascination? And the eyes that you do are just spectacular.
Thank you.
Just looking at these eyes are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something you start with, or what is your thoughts about that? Because the eyes just tell a story too.
Oh, thank you. I've always, I started painting figuratively. That's pretty much what I've always done. But they're kind of my friends. It's who I talk to in the studio, and if I leave the studio for too long and I come back and there's something unfinished, I'm always apologetic. I'm sorry, told you I'd get back to you. So I kind of do relate to them as friends. This is sounding really sad. But no, I kind of talk to them, and I'll paint a face until I recognize it, until it looks like, not necessarily like somebody I actually know, but just till I have a sense of recognition. So I guess they're all my imaginary friends.
Yes, I think we talked about it, that they all kind of have likeness with your face. So it's really interesting to have that, almost like, we know that they're not self-portraits at all, but they have a likeness with you, which is a really kind of a neat detail, again, I think, to
that may be the thing I'm waiting to recognize.
Maybe that's, because we all kind of subconsciously, recognize our own faces more than any other face. So maybe that's part of the process there.
Paint what you know.
All right.
What's your favorite piece of this show?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot. I really had fun making the show. Like I sometimes they're more of a struggle, and things don't come as easily. But the show was so much fun to make, and it was like perfect timing for me, because I didn't have to look at what was going on in the world. I was very focused at doing the work and enjoying the work, and so I don't know. I honestly, I don't think I have a favorite. I have ones that. Okay, I really like the possum because I'm a big possum person, but no, they all kind of hold. They all hold a little special place. Yeah. Do not either one. No, I just like painting them.
Okay.
We have a chihuahua.
a lot of your paintings, and I just assumed it was like, oh, maybe she has a chihuahua.
Yeah.
Nope. Nora Possum.
Yeah.
So,
Not yet, at least.
No, no, I'm going to safely say I'm not ever going to have a possum.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Oh, I didn't see you right there.
About what?
About the matches, the matchsticks.
At the opening, yeah, a lot of questions about it. But if you have a question,
I mean, you work with wood. Only questions that I'm gonna have are like, what are your thought processes behind it?
behind the matches,
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they're burned, some are bigger, some are smaller. It's just, you got an idea, and you want it to just make multiple different versions of that same idea. Or,
I've been doing matches a lot for a long time, like painting them and sculpting them. So, but when I first started doing them, one of the titles was "Fire Shapes the Journey," and to me that was, I mean, fire is just fire for all of us represents warmth and destruction and celebration and light, and it represents kind of everything. I mean, it can be destructive or celebratory. But with the match, I think like all of us, fire shapes our journey. It shapes how we look. When we go through fire, it shapes who we are as people. And I thought the matches were really a good metaphor for that. That it takes something straight and simple, and then you burn it, and it becomes more interesting, and it becomes more interesting, like we do, hopefully. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Everybody wants to touch.
Yes.
And you should let them. For like a buck
Okay. That's my
Bucket
husband.
pop.
Just slip him the money. I'm not going to look. William and I will go over there. We won't look. David's got his side gig going.
That's right.
He'll
Making
say
some
the
money on
cookie
the side,
recipe too.
All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to eat a cookie.
That's right.